All right, guys, it's a new month. Let's talk about some movies I watched. It is now September 21st, but we're going to talk about things I watched the first week of September 2020. I believe we have quite a few movies to talk about in this video. We have 8 of them, and they're all here next to me on physical media, which is exciting. No streaming or renting of any sorts. And we're going to dive right in. Some rewatches, some first-time watches, some 4Ks, some Blu-rays, some DVDs. This video has it all. So the first thing we checked out was a movie that Bridget nor myself had ever seen. A sports movie I've heard a lot of good things about, and that is The Program, or The Program, if you want to say it cool like that. The Program is basically a movie about college football and the behind the scenes of college football. You know, what schools do to get students to have passing grades, what athletes do to get on the next level and, you know, think about their future careers in the NFL. So this movie's from '93, if I'm not mistaken. It stars James Caan as the coach, but also Halle Berry, Christy Swanson, Omar Epps is in this film as well. Their quarterback in the movie is played by this guy who looks like a Dick Tracy villain. I believe his name is Craig Sheffer. He was also in Some Kind of Wonderful, I believe. But he's a Heisman favorite going into this season, and there's a lot of hype around him, and can he handle the pressure of being a Heisman, you know, possible Heisman quarterback, being on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. And he's not very believable as a college athlete. He looks much older than everybody else, and they even look too old to be college athletes. So he almost looks like not even just a Dick Tracy villain, but if like Josh Brolin and a vampire decided to have a baby, he kind of looks like that as well. I don't know if you guys can see him there, or like I said, if you've seen, there you go. Where? Like I said, Dick Tracy villain mixed with vampire and Josh Brolin. So it attempts to expose the issues of the college football program and boosters and money and drugs, but it kind of like doesn't go for it. It was very predictable. There was setting up multiple storylines with different players. I could predict every storyline where it was going. Never have seen this movie. And excuse me, the movie's rated R. It almost felt like they were trying to make it like a light R for some reason, instead of like going for it and going like exposing stuff. I think they had to like be careful what they talked about and how much they talked about it. So The Program was watchable. Probably won't stay on the shelf. I give it a 2.5. Bridget wasn't a fan of it. It just didn't really do it for me. I'd say if you haven't seen it, check it out. You might enjoy it a little more. Like I said, I wish they kind of exposed the behind the scenes of college a little more. However, this next film had been on my watch list for years and years. Finally got to watch it. Thank you to Bill from Geriatric Geek sending it over to me. And that is, what year is this from? That's not what the movie's called. It's not called What Year Is This From. I want to say it's from 2001. 2001 film, Life as a House, which stars Kevin Kline as a father, an architect designer who basically finds out that he has a terminal illness. And his son, Hayden Christensen, is like an emo, I don't want to say he's depressed, but he's depressed, like an emo kid who like is rebelling against his parents, and he has piercings and dyes his hair. And the dad decides that he's going to knock down the old house he's lived in and build this house because of events that happen. That's basically, we'll leave the synopsis at this. Hayden Christensen plays the teenage emo brat to perfection, very reminiscent of Darth Vader in the prequel films, being a spoiled emo brat. Also, Kevin Kline was absolutely fantastic in this film. The thing about Hayden Christensen's character is his character drives me crazy the first half of this movie. Probably the way that the director and the writer wanted him to do. And then, like, you start seeing the relationship between his dad and him. And, yeah, it's just a very, very well done movie. There's a lot to talk about, but I don't want to spoil it. I really wish there was a Blu-ray of this. I think this has only been released on DVD in a snapper case, which I'm glad that Bill sent me this copy, but I think I'd like to get like the original version of it with snapper case. I think that's how it came. Maybe not. But anyway, this was fantastic. Definitely would recommend this one. I give it a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it and would highly recommend it if you have not seen it. Unlike this next film, which was probably my least favorite film watched in this period, definitely was. Another one that's been on my watch list for a while. And it's Steven Spielberg's one lonely attempt at making a comedy film. And that is 1941, starring John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. Basically like a World War II wartime spoof film. So this movie was made sandwiched between a few other small films that Spielberg did. I think there was one called like Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is like an indie film. Then this came out, and then he went on to do like a movie about some indie guy, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then he did a movie about an alien E.T. You know, just like smaller stuff, but he did this between those 4 movies, and this one doesn't belong with those 4. Obviously, there are 4 classic films. Haven't seen Close Encounters, but I'm assuming it's a classic based on what I've heard. But the other 3 films are classics, definitely. All 4-star better films, in my opinion. And this movie just wasn't good. It was way too long. It was very boring. There's a theatrical version, which we watched at 2 hours. Then there's an extended version that's 2 hours and 25 minutes. I'm good. I watched the 2-hour version one. This is not making the shelf. Even though it stars Belushi, Aykroyd, and John Candy, Dan Aykroyd's first theatrical film, true story. And I would say maybe 5% of the attempted like laughs in this movie hit for me. Other than that, there were few and far between. And it felt like Spielberg was trying to make like a Naked Gun, airplane-esque war film, kind of. And it just didn't do it for me. I gave this a 1.5. Was not a fan. Not going to make the shelf. Next up is a movie I've wanted to revisit for a while. I always find this out hunting. Always horribly scratched. But wanted to grab it because I don't know how much longer you'll be able to get a movie like this. Kind of a controversial film, I guess. And this being the unrated and uncut version. It is 2004's classic White Chicks, starring Sean and Damon. Sean and Marlon Wayans, directed by Keenen Ivory Wayans. So, obviously, like I said, based on the subject matter of the Wayans brothers going whiteface and pretending to be 2 socialites, one of which is played by Boy Meets World's Madeline Ward. I would say Google her, but don't Google her. She played Rachel on Boy Meets World, the later seasons. So this movie has nostalgia laughs for me. Definitely didn't hold up as much as I remember it. Definitely lots of like cringeworthy content, lots of insensitivities all over the place towards socialites, towards Spanish folks, towards it's just there's cringy content in here in the day and age we live in. A little bit too much potty humor for me. I mean, I love potty humor, but this is a little too much. But this isn't anything amazing. It's not something I'm like, you know, rush out to buy it. Although if you don't own this and you want a copy, I would try to find it now because like I said, I could see this going out of print because it's a pretty controversial film. Because, yeah. Next up, a first time watch for me on 4K, and that is the 90s classic? Question mark? Waterworld, starring Kevin Costner, Dennis Hopper, and Tina, not Tina. What's her name? Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon, Pedro. Deb. A young Deb is in this film from Napoleon Dynamite. I got there, guys. I was getting there. So this is a movie that gets a lot of flack. Lots of people, obviously this was a box office flop. Lots of people kind of just like hate on this movie. And I thought from a like fun popcorn film, this movie was pretty entertaining. Definitely not the best thing I've ever seen. Definitely far from the worst thing I've ever seen. Dennis Hopper is pretty funny as the villain in this movie. Lots of one-liners that were pretty good. He's almost like a comic book villain of sorts in this movie. And, you know, it's not a masterpiece, but it's a fun watch. The 4K really wasn't spectacular because the movie is very, I don't want to say it's dull, but it's a very gray film. I will say that certain scenes of the water look fantastic. The practical sets looked fantastic. But I don't know if I would necessarily need to upgrade this from Blu-ray to 4K. I already did, but... so yeah, I give this a 3 out of 5. Watchable. 2.5 out of 5. Watchable, but not a masterpiece. It'll make the shelf for now. Next up, as you guys know, if you watched my videos, Warner Brothers was very kind to send over some new 4Ks. And I'm going to talk about my thoughts on those movies. If you want to know my thoughts on the video quality, I'll put a link down below in the description. It's a link to the video where I talk about the video quality and bonus features of the discs. The first one we watched was Beetlejuice, a classic film. This movie I've watched many times throughout my life, and I was excited to revisit it on 4K. It looks amazing on 4K. The movie is so good, so well done. It mixes horror and comedy, I would say almost perfectly. It's consistent throughout. I mean, the title character really doesn't show up till halfway through the movie, and the movie isn't boring the first 45 minutes. It's entertaining. And then Beetlejuice comes and just like the movie ramps up to a whole new level. Michael Keaton cast as Beetlejuice is absolutely perfect casting in my opinion. I think it's just such a funny movie. The comedy scenes are really well done. There's some creepy stuff in it that, you know, could be a little frightening. Oh man, my papers are blowing all over because I got a fan blowing on me. But yeah, I gave Beetlejuice a 4.5 out of 5. I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. Next up, another childhood favorite of mine, another classic, and that is The Goonies. I love this movie. It's been a favorite of mine pretty much my entire life. Family friendly for the most part, some language in it. Adventure film with a group of kids and a treasure map. Produced by Spielberg, directed by Richard Donner, and then I'm trying to remember, Chris Columbus, I think, produced or wrote it, maybe co-wrote it. Screenplay by Chris Columbus. Executive producers, Spielberg, Frank Marshall. Produced by Donner, directed by Donner. So, yes. So 3 of the bigger names in, you know, movie directing, writing history, I would think. Not like top, well, Spielberg and Donner are pretty high up there, but Chris Columbus has done a lot of great things. So, the humor in the first 20 minutes of this movie is my favorite part of the film. I know it's going to sound weird, but I love the interaction between the friends. I think it's the highlight of the film personally. The rest of the movie is really enjoyable, but that stands out for me because it does a great job of introducing all the characters and showing their friendship and their bond. The story is pretty predictable, and that's all right because it's a fun movie with a great cast. You have Corey Feldman, Josh Brolin, Martha Plimpton, Sean Astin. So the movie is really enjoyable, and it's a family classic. I give this a 4 out of 5. It's so good. It looks great on 4K. And yeah, The Goonies. And last but not least, the 8th film we're going to talk about is a first-time watch for me, also sent over from Warner Brothers like the last two, and that is Robert Downey Jr., Jude Law, Rachel McAdams, Mark Strong in Sherlock Holmes. I'm not sure why I put off watching this. It was never fully on my radar. Like, I was aware of the movie, but just it wasn't high up on my things to watch. And Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law have great chemistry as Holmes and Watson in the film. The movie does a little bit too much of the Holmes mapping out like what he's going to do. I enjoyed it, but then it kind of repeated over and over, and I got kind of bored of it and over it, if you will. But the movie also seems to meander in parts for me and feels like it goes a bit overlong, but it just like a 2 hour, like a 2 hour and 8 minute runtime. It just kind of like stretches out at points, but it's a fun popcorn film. I definitely would recommend checking it out. Don't know if it necessarily needs the 4K upgrade if you have the Blu-rays, but like I said, we'll put a link below to the reviews of the Sherlock Holmes movies, as well as Goonies and Beetlejuice. You'll have to wait till the next video to hear my thoughts on Game of Shadows, the sequel to Sherlock Holmes. But that is it, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And also, be sure to leave comments down below. I love interacting with you guys. Let me know what are your thoughts on the movies I checked out this week that I talked about. Have you seen them? Do you enjoy them? Do you hate them? Am I wrong about all of them? I'm sure somebody will think that. But also, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you guys know when new videos drop on the channel. Also, be sure to check out the description box down below where you can find links to my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, where I rate and review all the movies I watch, my eBay page, Amazon wishlist, Blu-ray.com profile, email, P.O. box, all can be found down below. That is it, guys. As always, until next time, who's down to movie?